Buckle up, folks. This podcast is all about diving into the good, the bad, and the ugly of our bodily, spiritual, and mental experiences. If you are not prepared to challenge your assumptions, laugh at yourself, laugh at me, or maybe even shed a tear or two, then you might want to look elsewhere. But if you're ready to get real, get honest, and get a little weird, then welcome to the Just Chrissy podcast. I'm your host, Chrissy McCammon. Welcome back to Just Chrissy. I'm your host, Chrissy, and the owner of Rooted in Wellness.life. That is my website. If you need to get a hold of me, you can get me there. You can message me. I have Rooted in Wellness LLC Facebook group. I'm not real good on the social media. Like, I do put things out there, but I'm not real consistent. So yeah, if you need to get a hold of me, like, go to my website and send me something through the chat button. So today is part 2 of the digestion. Yesterday we covered the basics of the mouth and what happens there, the esophagus and what happens there, the connection between the esophagus and the stomach, what happens in the stomach. We talked about the sphincters between the esophagus and the stomach, and then the stomach. We got to the intrinsic factor, or IF, which deals with the B12, and that one took me a little bit to comprehend like what it did, but it's a protein that helps your intestines to absorb the B12. It plays a crucial role in absorbing B12. So if you're not absorbing B12, you want to look at your hydrochloric acid. Again, I'm not a doctor. I cannot diagnose, treat, or prescribe anything. I am sharing with you information that I have just studied. And this information is freely out there for everybody. I have just gathered it all in a neat little package to make it easier. So we talked about the B12, and we were picking up in that the stomach was the washing machine, that it has this really low pH acid in it that breaks things down, and how we can actually interfere with that by drinking with our meals. We can shut down our digestion. So if you missed yesterday's podcast, go back and catch that. But at the bottom of the stomach, there is this pyloric sphincter, and it's another gate, and it also has sensors on it. Remember, the cardiac sphincter between the esophagus and the stomach, if you go back, had a sensor on it that if the acid wasn't high enough, it wasn't going to close. This one also has sensors, the pyloric sphincter at the bottom of the stomach. It will only open when it knows food is broken down to a certain state. So you eat breakfast, and then mid-morning you eat an apple. That pyloric sphincter quickly shuts down because something new came in that isn't broken down. And it will stay shut until the newcomer gets broken down into the right state. So think about grazing on food all day long. What's happening? You're starting the digestive process, and food's starting to go in, and then it shuts down because something new came in. Imagine what is happening for people that graze all day long. It can be bedtime, and you could still have food. You could still have breakfast in your stomach. The duodenum, which is the first part of the small intestine, the liver and the pancreas release into the duodenum. The liver releases bile into the duodenum by the bile duct, and this breaks down unsaturated fats into tiny particles. So think about Dawn dish liquid. When you have a lot of fat on your, like, say a lot of grease on something, and you use the Dawn dish liquid, that's kind of what the bile's doing. It's breaking it down. Then you have the pancreas, and this is the main organ of digestion. It is the star of the show. If someone has pancreatic cancer, they are usually dying from malnutrition because they can't finalize digestion and send the nutrition into the blood, where it becomes part of our body and the sustainer of life. And we talked yesterday about how the blood is the life. And until it goes into the blood, it's not actually part of you. So it's inside your mouth, it's inside your esophagus, it's inside your stomach. But until it gets to the pancreas, it is really not life into your body yet. So you have the pancreatic lipase that finishes any unsaturated fat that might be in there. You have the pancreatic amylase. It finishes starch breakdown. So you have fat breaking down, you have any starch that's left over is getting broken down, and then you have trypsin, which finishes any protein digestion that needs to happen. And then you have chymotrypsin, which also finishes protein digestion. Then there is proteolytic enzymes. They break down protein. Examples of it are like pepsin, trypsin, chymotrypsin. So pineapple has bromelain, papaya has papain. These are examples of this, and they can be found in a lot of the digestive enzymes that you purchase. By the way, I am going to put links to yesterday's podcast and today's podcast to products that I think would be very helpful if you are experiencing these issues that are with companies that I trust. I'm going to do a podcast on that too. Why you should not buy your supplements and your wellness aids from unknown sources. They are not regulated by anybody. We just take them at the word. So I will put links to companies I trust. There are a lot of trustworthy companies out there, and if you have a practitioner, they have done their homework and they have built relationships with people who have done their homework, and they care about your wellness, and they want you taking real products, not something that your body, if it's a lab created product, which a lot of them are. And by the way, many of what you're buying out of these big platform stores and online are made by either pharmaceutical companies or China. And there's an Asian pharmaceutical company too that produces some. So, I mean, if you trust them, but many of them are lab made. They are not bioavailable to your body, which means they don't break down in your body. Your body doesn't know what to do with a wood filler. Or maybe they put baking soda in them, which baking soda really won't hurt you. Well, unless it has a lot of aluminum, but like for the most part, it won't hurt you, but it's not going to do what they're telling you it will do. So I digress to get back to our digestion process. So you have these proteolytic enzymes. They break down proteins, and they are found in a lot of the good enzymes that you trust. The gut flora is responsible for the final breakdown of food before it enters the blood. Absorption of nutrients out of the gut and into the blood protects the blood from harmful pathogens, nourishes the cells that line the gastrointestinal tract. These cells that you're nourishing renew every 3 to 5 days. So now we are moving to the delivery into the blood. Lining the small intestine are these little villi. And in the middle of these little villi is the lacteal, or part of your lymphatic system. We'll talk about that one day too. And that's why I say, like, take these words, put them on the shelf in your head, because as you hear them, this will start to connect. It'll start to make more sense. They'll become familiar, and you'll be like, oh yeah, she said about the lymphatic system the other day, or she said about the anabolic and the catabolic system the other day. You'll start to like put the pieces together. It's kind of like reading the Bible. If you've never read the Bible and then you start reading it, and as you continue to grow and read more and more, it all starts to piece together. Okay, so anyway, so we have this villi, and it's part of your lymphatic system. And all through the villi is your blood capillaries network. And it's covering the villi is this like thick turf wall called Lactobacillus acidophilus. I can get it out. And then you have the Bifidobacterium. This turf wall plays an important role in the final act of digestions. For instance, babies don't have gut flora when they're in the mom. They receive it in the colostrum, and colostrum is rich in the gut flora. This gut flora, Lactobacillus acidophilus and Bifidobacterium, is responsible for the final breakdown of our food. It's responsible for the absorption of the nutrients out of the gut and into the blood. It also protects the blood from harmful pathogens that might be in the gut, and for the nourishment of the cells that line that gastrointestinal tract. This gut flora is very important. Now, there are things, and you know I say this all the time, it is not our body that is failing us. It is what we are doing to our body, and our body is always fighting for us to survive. There are things that we are doing to our body that breaks down these two probiotics. Here we go. Antibiotics. You know, the stuff you get from the doctor. Anti means negative or kill. Anti. Biotics means life. Kill life. When you take an antibiotic, you're literally killing the bad stuff, but you're also killing off the good stuff. If you take a biotic, there are studies to prove that it's like a year of recovery for your gut. So don't run to the antibiotics every single time something's happening. Get your gut healthy. This should be for emergency use only. Okay, that's my PSA on antibiotics. Statin drugs. We already talked about cholesterol. This is the stuff that's destroying your gut flora. Antibiotics, statin drugs, contraceptive pill, or birth control. Cortisone, prednisone, ibuprofen overuse, Tylenol or acetaminophen overuse. With this constant abuse, you're breaking down alcohol, bad foods, soda, refined foods. With constant abuse, you're breaking down the lining, and you will create gaps in the lining of this villa that you've now compromised the ability to break down nutrients, protection from all the harmful pathogens, and nourishment for the cells in the gastrointestinal tract. All dis-ease, discomfort, dis-ease, uneasiness in the body, imbalance, begins in the gut. You might have symptoms like diarrhea, constipation, IBS, chronic fatigue. These nutrients aren't getting out of the gut and into the blood where they should be. Strong acid in the stomach is to wipe out or clean out pathogens. Like a washing machine. And when the acid is weak, microbes are getting through. Further down there is the second system to protect the blood. It's the gut flora. If the second line of defense, the gut flora, is compromised, the two processes to protect the blood are gone, creating an avenue for harmful pathogens to get into the blood. Most food is absorbed about halfway down your small intestine, and then we come to the ileocecal valve, ileocecal. It's valve. It's the last portion of your small intestine and the first part of the colon, or the first portion of your large intestines where it connects. This valve is a one-way street and should stop anything from going back into the small intestine. This substance coming out of the small intestine into the large intestine is a liquidish consistency. The small intestine and the large intestine, they both have their microbial makeup, and it's different. The large intestine takes water out, so the stools are formed, and so you can have bowel movements with ease. If you eat 3 times a day, you should have an evacuation 3 times a day in a healthy body, but at least once, ideally more. Drink adequate water. If you are dehydrated, more water will be taken out of the liquid than it should in the colon and cause constipation. Eat plant foods because they sweep the colon. This is going to run a little bit longer than 15 minutes. You then have the appendix. The appendix is the colon's oil can. Now, I personally had my appendix taken out whenever I was like 12 years old, and many of you may have also. But it lubricates the contents to get them through easily and releases antibacterial fluid. So if you're doing all the destructive activities that I mentioned just a minute ago, what is coming out is pretty nasty, and the appendix has to release the antibacterial fluid to calm it down and to get it out of your body without it poisoning you. Well, think about what's happening if you don't have the appendix. So then we get to this, it's puborectalis. It's a muscle that prevents us from having accidents. This is a curved muscle. It's in your anus. The squatty potty allows this to relax and the colon to release bowel easier. This is better because if someone isn't going easily and they decide to put some strain on the anus, it can cause hemorrhoids. Squatting can heal and prevent hemorrhoids. Doing squats every day in your exercise plan can help you with this. Okay, we're running over a little bit, but I think this is important. How do we heal these things? The gut can respond very quickly because those cells, as we talked about, renew every 2 to 3 days if they're given the right conditions. You need to stop eating foods that irritate the gut lining, like caffeine, refined sugar, GMO wheat, dairy, processed foods. Take a probiotic or pro-life that has the gut flora thing, the gut flora supporting bacteria that we talked about. Then take a product that contains aloe vera, stimulates rapid healing in the lining of the gut. Slippery elm coats and seals, marshmallow, aloe vera. They're all super good. I'm going to put some products in the notes with these things in them that are good. Magnesium 3 times a day and before bed for heartburn. It calms down the cardiac sphincter. A little lemon juice and hot water before a meal, or a quarter of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper. It's the capsaicin family, and a little water just before your meal warms that gut up. Cayenne pepper is also known to heal stomach ulcers. Stress is a huge enemy for the hydrochloric acid production. Whenever you get into a huge debate with someone at mealtime and you lose your appetite, don't eat then. Eat when you're calm and not stressed. Drink clean water. Listen to your body. Pay attention as it heals. So this completes the digestion part. I'm sorry it ran a little bit over, but I didn't want to stop it without giving you the things to do to stop. And I hope you found it interesting. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go start applying some of these things and watch your body become balanced.